What if I told you that there was a magic pill, and this magic pill could make you stronger, faster, lighter, and a more powerful cyclist, reducing pain on the bike, and even outriding your friends on group rides? There's no magic pill, but there is strength training, and it actually comes with a lot more benefits than just that. Strength training is one of those things that's been growing in popularity, especially in cycling within the past few years, but it's also packed with confusion. And it's actually really important, a lot more important than just getting faster on the bike. Let's talk about strength training. Number one, you're not just training your legs. Cyclists are notorious for having very, very skinny upper bodies and, well, pretty strong legs. But we need to understand that the upper body is integral, not just on the bike, but off the bike as well. And neglecting the training of our upper body can have huge consequences. Yes, we are in a sport where our chest may not be actively involved in creating power and moving you forward on the bike. And yes, we do see some pro cyclists, most, if not all pro cyclists, are often extremely skinny when it comes to their upper bodies, but that's not mean it's healthy, especially considering that we're spending most of our time, most of our lives off the bike. So here's some on the bike benefits of upper body work. By learning to contract and relax certain muscles, you're going to be able to breathe better. And by breathing better, you're going to allow more oxygen in, which will then increase your performance. Obviously, big one, reducing neck and back pain. It increases your ability to control and work the bike up for a climb or for a sprint, which is going to increase your power as well. It's also going to decrease your recovery time because you're not going to be wasting precious energy keeping tension in the muscles unnecessarily where tension does not need to be held. For example, in the shoulders. And you see this a lot when people are riding really hard, really tense shoulders, but loose is actually fast. Tension where it does not need to be is just slowing you down. But there's also way more off the bike benefits as well for upper body work. Better posture. That's huge, especially in us as cyclists where we have that kind of bent over lumbar and looking up all the time. Better posture and increased mobility is going to serve us way more in the long run. Decreased risk of injury. We don't have frail upper bodies, which means that, let's say we sustain a fall or something, it's a lot easier to get back up and keep moving. Better movement patterns, better coordination, and better recovery. Now, number two, us cyclists are obsessed with our power to weight ratio. If you don't know what that is, it is the amount of power that you can sustain at the weight that you are at. And it basically determines how fast you are as a rider. Ideally, that power, the top number, is as high as you can get it, whereas the weight is as low as you can get it. And that's kind of the goal. Now, there are obviously two ways to increase this. You increase the power or decrease the weight, right? Not exactly. Let's look at that bottom number for just a second. Weight. Now, there's two kinds of weight. There's good weight and there's not so good weight. In other words, we can kind of say muscle and fat. Now, before you get upset, fat is necessary, but too much fat is where that can slow us down. Fat on our bodies is necessary to maintain good health. Just want to put that out there. So when we say we want to decrease the weight, it's not just decreasing the weight. You want to decrease this and increase this or maintain this, because this is what's actually going to serve you, whereas this is just kind of slowing you down. Look, it's not really, it's fun to play with at least. So, okay, let's say we have a 75 kilo rider and his FTP is 225. So therefore he has a FTP of 3 watts per kilo. If we take 2 kilos of fat off of him and add 0 watts to the FTP, now they can sustain 225 watts at 73 kilos, making their watts per kilo 3.08. Now, let's say instead of that, we put on 2 kilos of muscle on that rider, and just for the sake of argument, that FTP goes up to 245. So that makes his FTP 3.18 watts per kilo. Now that's pretty significant. And now let's combine the two. Let's say we add that 20 watts with 2 kilos of muscle and we lose 2 kilos of fat. which is the ideal, correct? Now this rider is sustaining 245 watts at 75 kilos, which is 3.26 watts per kilo. Now that will make a huge difference. To put that into perspective, if we're adding 20 watts and decreasing 2 kilos, that can be the difference of around 2.5 minutes of around 20-minute climb. And finally, point number 3, we need to work our core. Know that 5-minute plank is probably not working the core the way you want to work it, because you're probably doing it wrong. Now, maybe you're doing it right, maybe I'm way off base here, but the way I've seen most cyclists holding that 5-minute plank, there's no core engagement whatsoever, and the lower back and glutes are doing most of the work. We as cyclists pay quite a bit of money to get a really stiff bike, because when you push on the pedals and you're applying torque, if you don't have a stiff bike, you're actually leaking a lot of energy. And you see that in mountain biking. You have the compression forks, and if you are putting a lot of power and those compression forks are on, you're losing a lot of the power to get a more comfortable ride, at least. Well, the same thing happens when you lack core engagement. If your core is wonky every time you push on the pedals and create power, then there's an energy leak. Force on the pedals, aka power, it creates motion, but the stiffness throughout your core controls the motion, and it actually gives you the ability to propel yourself forward. To give you an example, here's a front plank with reach. The goal of the core is to resist rotation, what we call rotary stability, the ability to resist rotation at the hips, to keep your core stable, to keep everything stable as you simply move your arm. And most of us are going to be unable to do this. But once you can understand really to engage the core by squeezing the glutes, by keeping firm, by breathing, chin tucked, spine is aligned, and then you can translate that to on the bike, you are going to see huge increase in your performance. Strength training for cycling can be really confusing, and there's a lot of information out there, but I hope that this has cleared up at least a little bit of the misinformation and can give you a little bit of guidance for your next strength training routine. Work out your upper body. Learn how to properly engage your core, and understand that it's not all about losing weight. Thanks for watching. I hope you can like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and we'll hopefully come out with some future episodes for you.